there. Today's book is All the Broken People by Leah Conan. In this book, we meet Lucy Gray. She's recently moved to Woodstock, New York from Brooklyn area, and she's looking to escape from an abusive boyfriend. His name is Davis. There is a little bit of a strange dynamic here because her boyfriend is her best friend's brother, and I don't believe her friend truly knows the extent of the abuse that's happening in the relationship. So she always felt like, maybe sometimes they're having a little problems, but don't really know the extent. So she believes her brother is a good guy, and so whenever he uses her as a pawn, in a sense, to come and get her back, she goes along with it and doesn't really realize what's going on. So anyway, she's a little bit paranoid and always on the lookout and think he's going to come after her because it seems that she had tried to escape him before and wasn't successful. So anyway, she rents this house and she meets the couple next door, John and Vera, and they become fast friends. They would hang out and have dinners together, or her place or their place. And so she quickly considers them to be friends, and so quickly becomes pretty loyal to them, and which was kind of weird because she doesn't really know these people. And on top of it, there's been rumors circulating in town that John had some kind of inappropriate interaction with a teenage girl. And so the townspeople don't really like them and pretty much just turned against them. Now, John is a painter. He has a cabin in the woods. And then Vera has a gallery in town where she displays his work. So now, because of this happening, they kind of reclusive. So you would think that considering that she's new in town, that she would kind of, be neutral, kind of keep to herself a little bit until she knows exactly what's going on or who is involved or what kind of people they truly are, but not so. She jumps right in and believes whatever they say. So it seems as though she's really desperate for friendship and family, probably because she was isolated anyway in that relationship and her parents live out west. So I guess in a sense, maybe that's what's contributing to her neediness in a sense for family and friendship. But anyway, she's hanging out with them, and then they casually mention about maybe running off or disappearing just because of the woes with John, and they were talking about some remote place up north in Canada, and living off the grid. So they brought up casually initially, and after a while a plan came to fruition. She agrees that John would disappear until things quiet down, and then maybe Vera would meet him later, and she's kind of like maybe after a while buying the idea because she too could stand to escape because she wants to get further and further away from Davis. So when D-Day comes, they decide, they play their parts, and seems that everything have gone well, except for the next day the police comes to her place and asking about John because John had been found dead at the cabin. Now, the police had mentioned that Vera was the one to find him, which was weird because that wasn't a part of the plan that they had brought up. So this was another red flag in the plan because why was she there and why was she the one to find him? Because were they trying to double cross her? Were they changing the plan where they were gonna meet back up and leave her? So she was like, there's no way. And when she talked to the police about what she heard or whatever, they didn't believe her story, and ultimately she finally cracked and told them about what had happened, about the plan to fake his death. So now there's an investigation to find out who killed John. So they, her and Vera suspects that he has had to have something to do with Claire, who's the girl that was involved in the scandal, and his dad hates them with a passion. So they're thinking that maybe he's the one. Now, when Lucy initially moved into the apartment, she found some photos in one of the dressers. I believe it was in the dresser. and they were of who she later discovered to be John. Now, there was a girl who lived there before she had moved out because, well, I don't know if this, I can't recall if this is because of that, but she had had a falling out with John and Vera, and so she had moved out. But basically, what was told to her by the neighbors or Vera and John was because she kind of wasn't a loyal supporter of them, because there's something that she discovered that led her to believe that potentially John really had, the rumors had been true regarding John and the teenager. So anyway, it was, one day Rachel, who was a former tenant in that apartment, showed up asking about her mail, which was kind of weird because if you moved out, you'd ask to forward your mail or whatever. If you're not receiving any mail, you reach out to your clients. But she showed up there, and even though she had fallen out with John and Vera, she was awful interested in them. She was always asking about them from time to time, and as we progressed through the book. So she was a little bit weird. Although she was friendly and she doesn't seem weird on the surface, the fact that they had ended the friendship and she was so enthralled in their lives was kind of funny to me. So after John died, they decided they were going to stick together. She was going to be there for Vera. And also, while this is going on, she's noticing things in her apartment, like things being moved, things not the way that she left it. So she thought maybe it was Davis. So now she's frantic now and really wants to leave, especially after John was killed. So Davis did show up at one point as well. So she decided, okay, well, maybe it was him. But then she had reached out to Ellie, which is her friend, Davis's sister, to ask about when she had told Davis about her, because she had told her friend not to tell Davis where she was, and sure enough, she went and blabbed and told her brother, so her brother had shown up. So there was something that happened that caused her to question whether it was really Davis who had been getting into her apartment, and she realized that maybe it wasn't him based on the timeline, and so she called the realtor to ask, did somebody else have the key? And she swore up and down that when the previous tenant moved out, that she had changed the locks, and the only copies that she had was the one that she had and the one that Lucy had. So we discover that there is some kind of relationship between the realtor and the girl that was involved in the scandal with John. And so later on, as the police was investigating John's murder, we discovered that he might have had something to do with it, and there was an arrest that was made with John's murder. So after that, now I thought maybe, okay, well, we discover who killed John, and maybe things were gonna simmer down. But after she discovered after the arrest was made, she realized, well, even before the arrest was made, she realized that she had a knife that was missing, but she couldn't figure out for the life of her where it was. And so she decided now to go to Vera's place to look around, because her neighbor Maggie had given her a key that was formerly Rachel's. And when she tested it out, it turns out that the realtor didn't really change the locks, which is kind of creepy. And this is one thing I was like, oh my goodness, if I ever rented a place again, I'm going to have to definitely, change my locks when I move in, regardless of what the landlord tells me. But anyway, so she decided now that key that she had, that she was going to test it out, and sure enough, it opened her door. So she figured then maybe Vera had a key to her apartment. So she knew that they had a spare key, and she went in there, and sure enough, they had a key. So now she's suspecting that Vera had something to do with what was going on. She also found some items that belonged to her there, and so she was like, oh my goodness, she was betraying her. So in the process of her snooping around, Vera came back, and they had an altercation. So then after all that happened, now she decided, now she doesn't really have any friends now, so she decides she wanted to talk to somebody, and she reached out to Rachel. All right, so she reached out to Rachel, and they were there, talking and having wine or whatever. She asked to use the bathroom, and then when she went to the bathroom, she found some items that didn't belong, that she was like, oh my goodness, now. Why why does Rachel have these things? And so she discovered that, you know, Rachel was mad at Vera and John because they didn't believe her, or she was mad at Vera because Vera didn't believe her about John, and so she had put some things in place, you know, to shed light or to try to show her friend what was really going on and what John was really like. So there was a lot of twists and turns in this one, and there were so many red flags in here as well, because, you know, not just the fast friendships, but also the extreme loyalty without even knowing these people. I was like, thinking to myself, don't do it, don't do it, you know. So this was definitely a good read from Leah Conan. This is the first book of hers that I've read, so I look forward to reading other books if she has any other books that she's published. I haven't looked yet. So definitely 4 stars, a good read for sure. If you have read or listened to this book, let me know your thoughts. Until next time.